In the year 1525, Europe was burning. Two of the most powerful rulers of the continent stood against each other in a brutal struggle for dominance. On one side was King Francis I of France, proud, ambitious, and determined to expand his power. On the other side stood Emperor Charles V, ruler of the Holy Roman Empire, a man whose influence stretched across vast lands. Their clash reached its peak at a devastating moment in history, the Battle of Pavia. The result was catastrophic for France. Francis I was defeated, humiliated, but worst of all, captured. A king in chains. Europe watched in silence. No ally came to save him. No army marched in his defense. The balance of power had shifted, and Charles V now stood almost unstoppable. But what happened next would shock the entire continent. From his prison, Francis I made a desperate decision, one that no European king had dared to make before. He reached out, not to a fellow Christian ruler, but to the most powerful Muslim emperor of the time, Suleiman the Magnificent. In a letter filled with desperation, Francis begged for help. He acknowledged Suleiman's power, he admitted his own weakness, and he placed his fate in the hands of the Ottoman Empire. This was more than a request. It was a recognition of supremacy. When Suleiman received the letter, he did not hesitate. But he did not act like a desperate savior either. He acted like an emperor. Instead of rushing blindly into war, Suleiman saw the bigger picture. Europe was divided, and he would use that division to his advantage. In 1526, he launched a powerful campaign into Central Europe, shaking the very foundations of Charles V's dominance. The message was clear. Ottomans were not just a distant empire. They were the deciding force in European politics. Under this immense pressure, Charles V could no longer focus entirely on France. And soon, Francis I was released, not by the strength of his own kingdom, but because of the shadow cast by the Ottoman Empire. From that moment on, everything changed. France and the Ottoman Empire formed an unlikely alliance, one that would reshape diplomacy for decades. Trade agreements were signed, privileges were granted, and the Ottomans gained influence deep inside Europe without needing to conquer it. This was not just a military victory, this was something far greater. It was a moment when the Ottoman Empire proved that true power was not only measured on the battlefield, but in the ability to control the fate of kings. And perhaps the most unforgettable part of this story is this. At a time when Europe saw itself as the center of the world, one of its greatest kings had no choice but to bow his head and ask for help from the East.